Welcome to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, your favourite Formula 1 podcast produced by a British biased bloke with a massive Swede full of very questionable wheel knowledge. Broadcast live on YouTube and after the fact on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We have a good old natter about each and every Grand Prix of the season. My name's Tommo, let's talk about it. The title is not a lie. To all my fellow Yuki coin investors, I'm sorry, but it's an over. Yuki's out. He's getting dropped to the end of the year. It's confirmed. Writing was on the wall, has been for a while, and as a big Yuki fan, it's been a tough watch this year, just as it was a tough watch in 2020 with Alex. Of course, Alex is my number one, but Yuki's got a place in my heart for him, man. He's a lovely lad as well. Had the pleasure of meeting him this year, filming with him. What a geezer. Go and watch the video I did with Yuki, or at least what I posted, the behind the scenes cut of my shoot with Yuki from earlier in the year. Go and give that some love, all right? No one watched it at the time, but you should watch it now because Yuki's out of a seat. The grid is complete. There is no space for Yuki Tsunoda on the grid. And as much as this was coming, of course it was, there was always that little bit of hope and a little bit of it. I stand by. I think we will never know what the right decision will have been. This is the decision Red Bull are making. I would like to have seen them keep that stability, because we know that the driver, we see the driver that Albon is, Gasly is, Perez is, Lawson is. Lawson's doing a decent job this year now that he's got settled in. And yeah, we'll never know. We'll never know if they'd have kept Alex in 21. We will never know how he would have done, helping out Max. Would he have done a good job as Checo? Maybe, maybe not. And we will never know whether this 2026 car will have been a better fit for Yuki. And, the issues that they've had, and we've known this for a long time, right? That car needs to have a broader operating window. Otherwise, they're just going to continue conveying drivers in, out. Yeah. So obviously, as a fan, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that Yuki won't be on the grid. Never say never. Alex had a year out, returned, and has wrote a lot of wrongs in terms of his perception from the fan base. Obviously, Gasly had a bad time, but was able to rebuild at the junior team. And I hope Yuki gets the opportunity to do the same, because I do think, of course, I like the kid. I support him. So I'm going to maybe look at his performances through rose tints, but he deserved this promotion. Everyone was calling for Yuki to get that seat last year, and he didn't. Liam got it for the start of the year, but everyone was calling for Yuki for a reason, because his performances, and this is what's important to not forget, you couldn't judge Albon's career by his Red Bull stint. Williams didn't, and they picked him up, and it's worked out. You couldn't judge Gasly's career by his Red Bull stint. You couldn't judge Perez by his Red Bull stint, even though Perez definitely had bigger peaks than Albon and Gasly did during his time at Red Bull. And I think if someone's going to pick up Yuki for 2027, they need to, he got no preseason prep in the Red Bull because they didn't give him the seat from the start of the year, which if they're going to make that decision, they should have done it from the start of the year. They didn't. And yeah, I hope that someone looks at that and gives him a shot. But yeah, it sucks from a fan point of view. I was really hoping this wasn't going to happen, but I say that, you can't say Hadjar doesn't deserve it. I mean, I think he's been Rookie of the Year this year. Spoiler alert, he is going to be taking Yuki's seat. He's going to be in the Red Bull racing car next season. And as disappointed as I am as a Yuki fan, the silver lining is that Hadjar has been a breakout star this year. He's been so good. I've been so impressed with Isack, the way he's gone about things as well. yes, he wears his heart on his sleeve, and he is guilty of getting a bit too caught up in the emotions sometimes, but you feel like he channels it in a really positive way, actually, and he's really grown as the season's gone on. He was so unlucky in Qatar as well. And I just really, 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 really hope that Red Bull have worked out what's going on and why they can't give that second seat why they can't allow that second seat to be somewhere that a driver not thrives to the extent of Max, but can at least be a couple of tenths off of Max, because they haven't been able to since 2019. So obviously part of me is scared for Hadjar, absolutely. However, new set of regulations gives me more reason to be hopeful, but that's the reason I was hopeful about Yuki, right? Because I felt like 26, fresh slate, not a newly designed car at the end of the day, now that he's fully out of the team and with Aston Martin, and it would have been a better platform for Yuki to grow in, get a proper pre-season, all that. But it's done. They're not going with Yuki. They're going with Hadjar. Hadjar was very, very close to Yuki in those first. In fact, let me get my little quali head-to-head. Even those first 3 qualifying sessions of the year where Hadjar and Tsunoda were teammates. What are the numbers? Yeah, it was actually basically even. So Tsunoda was a tenth and a half quicker in Australia qualifying. And then in China sprint quali, Hadjar was a tenth and a half quicker. And in China normal qualifying, Hadjar was like 2 tenths quicker. So Hadjar actually won out the head-to-head. I know it's only 3, but to be a rookie with as little preparation, I think, I'll keep coming back to that with Hadjar. The lack of preparation he had relative to Behrman, to Antonelli, and Bortoleto also lacked preparation coming into this season. Considering how late it was announced, all that, the way Hadjar has, and also obviously Australia, you've got to remember that spin, that heartbreaking moment, your very first Grand Prix, and you bin it on the warm-up lap. Like, for him to bounce back and get a podium this year and do what he's done, the saving grace in this for me as a Yuki fan is that this kid bloody deserves it. He absolutely deserves the opportunity. So, you know what? As a Yuki fan, I'm disappointed, but as a F1 objective analyzer, you can't be unhappy about this, because Hadjar absolutely merits the opportunity. So, well done to Isack. Well done to Isack. And again, I just really hope it works out for him. And I hope that they've learned from whatever mistakes Red Bull have been making with this second seat since 2019. Just come on, Isack. Come on, son, please, please, please. But what that does, of course, then open up a gap in the team, and that is being filled by Arvid Lindblad, who's making the step up from Formula 2 to Racing Bulls. He just had a very decent race in Qatar, big recovery drive, P17 to P4, I want to say. And look, we saw this with Behrman, we saw this with Antonelli. You look at them points-wise, position-wise in F2, and you might not be blown away, but, Lindblad's been part of the Red Bull Academy for a long time. He's been very, very highly rated for a long time, and I don't think you can really pay any attention to his F2 results, which haven't been bad by any stretch, but okay, Fornaroli's won the title, who's just joined the McLaren Junior program, by the way. About time someone picked him up. So yeah, I'm excited to see what Lindblad can do. I think Red Bull would have been very justified by giving him a season, maybe not another year in F2, but chucking loads of FP1s at him and going down that route. But they've got this second team, and they're using it to foster potentially next generation. Arvid is very young. He's the youngest F2 race winner of all time, I want to say. I could be wrong. Chat, correct me. I think he's like the youngest F2 race winner of all time. So massive potential, massive possible upside with Arvid, and we will see. We will see. He seems very mature. He seems like he's got his head screwed on, and as much as they could have again given him more prep, kept the status quo, which I would have done. That would have been my preference. But, they must see enough in Arvid, and they've given him, a decent bit of TPC. He's done okay in F2. Is Porsche the youngest? Oh, interesting. He's the youngest race winner. I'm not sure. I think he is. I think he is the youngest race winner. But yeah, so congratulations, Arvid. I mean, what a huge opportunity. He is, is he 19, Arvid? I think he's 19. No, he's 18 still. Jesus. He's still 18. That's insane. That isn't. He's not 19 till August either. Jeez. Yeah, still 18 years of age, and he's getting a Racing Bulls seat. And we know that, again, that Racing Bulls environment really does help drivers come in and get up to speed and do really well. The problem is that it's done a better job of preparing drivers for, science, for example, prepping him for pastures new, prepping, with the last junior to really come through and is Max, and actually really work and gel with that team. Ricciardo before him, Vettel before him, but over recent years it's been prepping drivers for other teams more than they have their own. So yeah, remember when he told, if you've not seen, there's a clip of Arvid Lindblad, a young Arvid, bumping into Lando Norris and saying, "I'll see you in 5 years' time." I mean, fair play. I rate the confidence. And he's got in at 18 years of age. Mate, crazy good stuff from Arvid's point of view. So very excited to see him next year. And Liam Lawson has retained his seat at Racing Bulls, which, you know what? And again, Liam's great lad. Been able to film with him before. Just super normal, chill, nice guy. Easy to talk to. He's obviously been through the ringer a bit. His debut was obviously him juggling with Ricciardo for who's going to get the seat, blah, blah, blah. Obviously replaces Daniel when he's got the injury. He inflames the Alonso and Perez fan bases with his shenanigans. He does get caught up in a scrape or two, doesn't he, old Liam? He finds himself in trouble quite a lot. But he's kept on. And I think given his suboptimal preparation for his life in F1, okay, filling in and then just getting that Red Bull seat kind of out of nowhere. Look, I think to be honest, regardless of Lawson or Tsunoda, I think the results would have been similar over the course of the year, but I still think dropping him after 2 races was well out of pocket, if you ask me. But he's getting a full season at Racing Bulls. They must have seen enough in him to give him the Red Bull seat over Yuki in the first place. And again, if Hadjar can take this opportunity, then I think Liam probably, does need to have a good 26 to put himself on the map with some other teams, because I don't see his long-term future with Red Bull. We've got Solov coming through. Obviously, he made a pretty decent debut weekend in F2. He's another Red Bull junior and will be looking to take that seat if he can. But yeah, I'm happy for Liam. Because again, he's not had it easy. That's one thing you can absolutely, whether you like Liam or not, you can objectively say he's not had it easy. It's not been clean. It's not been, even when he returned to the team, he's on the other side of the garage. He's not got his previous race engineer. He's not got his previous team. He's on the other side. That's a weird dynamic, isn't it, as well? It's kind of, he's used to the environment, but also not used to the environment. So Liam's put a blinding result in every now and then, and hopefully he can get that consistency in 26 and show what he can do. And he'll be a good benchmark for Lindblad, actually. Because I think, in this second half of the season, Hadjar definitely had one over on Liam consistently at the start of the year. What the average gap was between Hadjar and Lawson, it was over 2/10 in the first half of the year. In the second half, it's been just over 1/10, which is, when you're talking 1/10, that's pretty marginal. I don't think there's too much in it. So Lawson stays at Racing Bulls alongside Arvid Lindblad, with Isack Hadjar taking the step up to Red Bull and Yuki stepping aside. That is the news. That's my thoughts on the news. Thank you, Ragav, for the super chat, by the way. Has Carlos established himself as number one in the second half with 2 podiums and sprint top 3? These are the purposes of a world champion. Wow. I mean, talking of ex-Red Bull, Carlos Sainz, he's doing a great job. He's driving superbly at the minute. So I think give Carlos the right car, I think he could definitely win a title, 100%. No doubt in my mind. Is he the most gifted, talented driver out there? No, there are a number of drivers I put ahead of him, but he's well good enough to win a title in the right circumstances, in my opinion. Thank you for the super chat. Right, so let's go to Red Bull's statement. They have put a statement out. Get the old screen share up, and we can see Max, Isack in the gear. Oracle Red Bull Racing announces 26 driver lineup. Isack Hadjar will join Max Verstappen. Bosh. Only turned 21 in December. Mightily impressive. I'm just going to kind of paraphrase through a lot of this and then pick out the bits that I think are interesting. New era Formula 1. Debut Red Bull Ford powertrains, of course. Mix of youth and experience. Isaac's arrival means it's time for Oracle Red Bull Racing to bid farewell to Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki joined the Red Bull family in 2019 as part of its junior team and has been with us ever since. Yuki's competed in over 100 races, 110 starts. The third most of all time, or fourth most of all time, I think, to not have a podium. So a Tsunodium needs to happen this weekend, or it might not ever. And a Tsunodium this weekend would be clutch for Max, by the way. That would be so clutch for Max, because that is another potential driver ahead of, well, Lando Norris, because that's who he needs to beat to win the title. First with team as a Visa Cash App Racing Balls before the 10th Red Bull Junior graduate. Put a little graphic together for Yuki. Yuki will remain with the Red Bull family as he moves into the role of Red Bull test and reserve driver for 2026. So this again very much reminds me of what they did with Albon, because of course Albon stepped aside for Perez in 2021, but was still part of the team, still worked in the background. And I hope, because we know that Red Bull definitely helped Alex get that Williams opportunity in terms of they were in his corner. There was a bit of contentiousness around Mercedes engine, blah, blah, blah. But Red Bull definitely supported Alex in getting that next opportunity. And I very much hope Red Bull will do the same for Yuki. So, Laurent's statement. Yuki's racing Red Bull cars for 7 years now, and I've had the pleasure of working with him at both Red Bull teams. That is very important because they are. When we interviewed him on Talking Ball, he said, he considers Yuki a friend. They are close. This must have been a tough decision for Laurent, but also as much as Laurent's team principal, there is a broader team as well at Red Bull. There's Helmut Marko and all the shareholders, so it's not going to be a decision made by anyone in isolation, right? It is ultimately a collective decision that's been made. For his 5 seasons so far in F1, Yuki's matured into a complete racer, good over a single lap on Saturday and capable of exceptional starts and excellent racecraft on Sunday. Everyone in the sport would agree it is impossible not to like Yuki. So true. Personality infectious. He's become a very special part of the Red Bull family. On behalf of everyone at Red Bull, I thank him for what he has contributed so far, and we know he will provide invaluable support to the 26 project moving forwards. As for Isack, in his first F1 season, he's displayed great maturity and proven to be a quick learner. Most importantly, he's demonstrated raw speed, and that is the number one requirement of this sport. We believe Isack can thrive alongside Max and produce the magic on track. We believe Isack can thrive alongside Max and produce the magic on track. That is they've got, because no one's thrived in that seat since Ricciardo in 2018. This is the key. This is the key point, because if it's going to be same again, then there was no point. You might as well have given Hadjar another year, but this Red Bull second seat thing can't go on forever. It has to end at some point. There has to be a driver that bucks the trend at some point, surely. And I think 26 is an opportunity for that to be the case, whatever the driver, whether it was Yuki still or whether it's Isack now. 26 will be a huge challenge for the team in Red Bull full powertrains. Exciting times. Looking forward, seeing what we can do together. Right, here we go. Hadjar Talk to me, Isack. I'm so grateful to Oracle Rebel Racing for giving me the opportunity and trust to race at the highest level of Formula One. After all the hard work I have put in since joining the junior team, it's such a great reward. I've had many ups and downs throughout my career, and they kept believing and pushing me. We know Helmut Marko has been a big proponent of Hadjar. The Petit Prost title came from Helmut, so yeah, the belief in there has been a long time coming. And this year with VCARB has been absolutely amazing. I've learned a lot and secured a maiden podium. I feel I'm much better as a racing driver and a person due to the team support and preparation. I feel ready to go to Oracle Rebel Racing, and I'm happy and proud they feel the same. When he was being interviewed at Qatar, he kind of gave it away with his expression, didn't he? You could tell he was desperate to let this one slip. It's an awesome move to work with the best team and learn from Max is something I can't wait for. So he's up for the challenge. He is up for the challenge. You can say that absolutely. Will he be able to take it? Look, he's going to get a full pre-season. Is Isack? He's going to get that full pre-season that Yuki didn't get. And again, it is a new set of regulations. It's a new car. It's a new car for Max to get on top of. And it is a design philosophy that is going to be different because it's the first Red Bull racing car that won't be designed by Adrian Newey. So that is going to surely have an impact, make a difference. In what way that makes a difference? Impossible to say. But yeah, so if Yuki is, which it says in here, test and reserve driver, that's a pretty big role because obviously Yuki's been linked with IndyCar. He's been linked with various other opportunities. And is that in his best interest in order to get back on the grid, which I'm sure he'll be desperate to do for 2027? I'm not sure because obviously Bottas has chosen to, go down the reserve test driver route, keep himself in the paddock, keep himself present in people's thoughts and feelings and minds. And it has resulted in a seat for him. So I would argue that if Yuki wants to maximise his chances for 27, he should probably just go all in on this Red Bull opportunity. Again, just like Alex did. Alex got back on the grid. Bottas has got back on the grid. And Yuki, I think you look over the particularly kind of last year, start of this year as well at Racing Bulls. Very, very good. Very impressive. And he's got potentially an opportunity to get back in. I don't think that door's fully closed on F1 for him. He's still... How old's Yuki now, actually? Yuki Tsunoda. He is 25. He's still very young, is Yuki. So I would like to think he will find his way back into this sport. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I would like to see. That's right, chat. Do we have any thoughts, any particular... comments? Let me know what you think of this. I'm not going to go on too long. We've been live for 25 minutes now. What are our thoughts and feelings overall on this? Are we surprised? Do we think things are going to be different this time? I'd like to think that Red Bull would only make a driver swap if they are very, very confident that this second seat thing isn't going to be an ongoing issue, and if they feel like they're going to be able to deliver a car that has a broad enough operating window for a new driver to come in without the, Yuki's gone through this difficult season, just come in fresh and just hit the ground running and start 26 as you mean to go on, which is obviously a new regulation period. So, Techno Andrew, you're worried for Isack. Hey Steve saying potential for Yuki to Aston. Lance notwithstanding. Well, again, Yuki's keeping in F1 in the paddock as a test reserve. Say Fernando retires at the end of 26, Honda relationship, there could be an opportunity there. I think as much as I want to see Yuki racing, I'd love to see him racing in IndyCar. I don't think that's the right choice for him to try and keep his F1 career alive, which at 25, with 5 years experience, and he's only 25, and this doesn't have to define his career, this stint. And I think in most reasonable people's minds, this won't define his career. He's jumped in, without pre-season. third race of the year, jumped into this car where Lawson, Perez, Albon and Gasly before him have all disproportionately struggled relative to the known ability that they have. You know, I think Yuki's got a great chance to get on the grid, but I think he needs to hang about the paddock and basically just be present, which again, I'd love to see him racing as a Yuki fan, but I want to see him back in F1 more than that, to be honest. Julius says, unsurprising, only surprised how Red Bull remain okay with how things are with the second seat. Yeah, I mean, obviously Laurent's just come in recently and they just need to make sure that this doesn't continue to be a problem, because this will continue to be a shadow that rolls over the team. And if in 2026 Hadjar is qualifying over half a second away from Max, then damn, like that will be gutting, you know? Because I've said this from the start. Of course, Max is arguably the greatest of all time. He is certainly one of the greatest of all time. No question, no doubt in my mind whatsoever. However, if that was just the case, but the car was still very drivable, well, you'd still have, the teammate would finish behind him, but, you know, still finish second, third, fourth, fifth, podiums, whatever, right? That's not what's happening. The other driver, Max, is winning Grand Prix, and the other driver's going out in Q1. Like, you know, that shows that it's both factors. Max's quality is exposing and nailing the hammer into the issue. But even without, you know, even if Max drove at 95%, maybe not literally 95%, but you know what I mean, the other driver would still be, you know, struggling down towards the back, you know. Sam says, you think this isn't good for anyone? Whereas Ali says, great news all around. There you go. See, look, the separation, the opposites of support. Yuki Tsunoda wins the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. I mean, look, that would be an unbelievable parting gift, Toby. If Yuki can pull it together in this one final weekend of the year, get into Q3 at least, and be some kind of factor. Be what Perez was to Max in 2021 Abu Dhabi. You know, if Yuki can go long on a start on a hard tyre, go long, qualify well. Yuki needs to get a good quali in here, because if he can qualify well, go long, and then, you know, try and hold up the McLarens. Like, if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. And Perez played it blind in Abu Dhabi 21 to allow Max because even regardless of the whole safety car shenanigans, like if Perez hadn't held up Hamilton the way he did, then Lewis would probably have had a gap. I've not checked this, but I'm pretty sure he would have had a gap, right, to pit, and would have been fine because he was miles ahead of Max. But then he wasn't miles ahead of Max because of Checo's superb defence. So you've got to keep that in mind. He could still make a difference. He could absolutely still make a difference. Josh says, I think better for Yuki to go to Indy and be Bottas and do some vids for Red Bull. Well, again, to do a full Indy season is not really gonna. Maybe you do some Super Formula, because of course Yuki, you know, hasn't raced in Japan since his Japanese F4 days, and Ayumu Iwasa has just won Super Formula this year. It'd be cool to see Yuki get a bit of Super Formula in. Maybe not a full season, but just to keep him fresh and sharp, and obviously he'd bring big eyeballs on Super Formula back home as well, and more eyeballs. That kind of makes sense as at least a partial season thing. He can spend some time back at home in Japan, where he's obviously been over in Europe for so long, you know, going for this F1 dream. I think that would be nice if Yuki's able to do that for him personally. I see that more likely than anything else. Tyneen says, if Yuki was on P1 and Max P2, which is a stretch, but I understand what you're saying, would he swap with Max to let him secure the Drivers' Championship, or would he secure his first win? Oh no, he'd swap. He'd swap. I mean, look, well, I say that. If both McLarens DNF'd, so then Max wins the title in P2 anyway, then yeah, let Yuki 100% let Yuki take the win, 100%. But that's very unlikely. it would be way more likely that 7 points between P1 and P2 would make the difference, and therefore Yuki would definitely give up the win, because he'd still get a podium. But imagine Yuki winning the race ahead of Max would deny Max the championship. Oh, there's just too many permutations. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. So it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Tyfex says Science did the best thing all those years ago, and dodging the Red Bull family when he left in 2018. Wouldn't have raced for half the teams on the grid otherwise. Yeah, look, obviously Science got out. He had an opportunity at Renault, which didn't go amazingly well, but then it was the McLaren opportunity that really set his career on the right direction. And again, look, the Red Bull program has enabled so many drivers to have careers in motorsport, and I'm not just talking F1, and I say motorsport for a reason. As much as the transition from the junior team to the senior F1 team, that has not worked for far too long now. It's not been working. But I would say the rest of the junior program, look, it's very cutthroat, it's very tough, but also they do hand out a lot of opportunities to drivers. And if you can deliver the pace, then you've got a shot. So it's one of them, that there are pros, there are cons definitely, but there are also pros. Yuki to Euro Trucks, Matthew, do you reckon? Euro Trucks Yuki. Would love to see it. But yeah, that's a wrap. I've got not too much more to say on this. Yuki Tsunoda will not be a Red Bull Racing driver in 2026. Isack Hadjar will. And then Lindblad and Lawson will take the 2 remaining Racing Bulls seats. Gutted as a Yuki fan, but you cannot say that Hadjar does not merit this opportunity, because he absolutely does. Thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate you all taking the time. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, interact, comment down below as well. Most of you aren't here live, and just let me know your thoughts and whether you have... Look, again, I like to think Red Bull wouldn't have made this call unless they're confident that next year's car is going to have a much more reasonable operating window. And obviously Lauren's now in charge. Now there's different management ultimately, so I hope they don't make the same mistake again. But do let me know in the comments below. Pleasure as always. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.